Hey, Leslie, welcome to the show. It's a welcome way of getting started. Tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks for everybody that's listening today. My name is Leslie Vanetz, based here in Chicago, running U.S. expansion, so new business development for a British research company called Procurement Leaders. I love sales. Have been in sales now for 12 years, so really a profession for me and something I'm, looking forward to doing for the rest of my life.
And I think you're the first person from Montana to be on the show.
Brian, I'm so happy you mentioned that, and it's my fault for not just leading with that because it is probably my favorite fact about myself. Yes, I
Yeah.
am a native Montanan. I've been in Chicago for 12 years, but I still have a Montana driver's license and a Montana phone number. It is the last best place.
Yeah, I bet. And how'd you get into sales?
I kind of stumbled into it, and I don't think I'm the
The
only
only one.
person. Yeah, I joined another British firm, a business intelligence company, straight out of college, and I only joined because I thought I wanted to go into event planning, event management, and they were a global events firm, lots of event management opportunities, none at that particular point. So I thought I'll just take this sales job,
Yeah.
and then once something else opens up, I'll ask for a transfer. And it was immediate. I knew that I had found the right place for me. I got my first promotion, which was like a numbers based promotion, at a record setting pace. Literally, I was the fastest person to have hit that number so far in the company. And I loved it. I found myself going home after work to do more prospecting because I just was so excited to have fresh people to cold call. And it was not an easy job. It was 100% cold calling, 150, 200 calls a day, no voicemails, no emails. You had to reach a C-level executive from the Fortune 1000 and cold call pitch them. So I was thrown into the deep end, but I appreciate all the experience and perspective that gave me, and certainly the executive presence I learned from a role like that. And I've, tried to just keep the ball rolling.
And what gave you this skill? Were you always outgoing, always friendly, always social, or?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think in high school, I was on the speech and debate team,
Okay.
and like Model United Nations and Model Arab League, and did all of those. I'll call them nerdy, but I mean that as a compliment. But did all those sort of nerdy activities, which really what you're building is a rhetoric skill. You're just constantly flexing that muscle of how do I communicate
Yeah.
clearly? How do I articulate my arguments? How can I be persuasive in a way that compels others to want to join my side? So, very unintentionally, I had been preparing for a career in sales, my entire childhood.
So you had to do public speaking.
A lot of it.
In the high school, that is not a natural act.
I don't think it is, but I liked it quite a bit. I still like public speaking. I think I'm one of those rare individuals that enjoys it, which doesn't mean I don't get nervous,
Right.
but I kind of like the adrenaline rush of it.
And in high school, what did you like about it? Was the competition, the attention, the winning?
Great question. Definitely the competition, always. I'm so competitive. So if I was also a three-sport athlete.
There you go.
Yeah, if there's a situation where there is a winner and a loser,
Yep.
I'm going to be a part of it, and I am there to win. Absolutely. But beyond that, I love the opportunity to learn. And in those extracurricular activities, you're learning about things that are way outside of your regular sphere, and you really are forced to put yourself in the position of somebody else.
Yep.
And how would you think about Model United Nations, and it's how would somebody in Honduras think about this issue, or like a speech and debate topic might be space clutter. And as a 15-year-old in Montana, those are not topics
You don't have much space
generally.
clutter there.
Yeah, yeah, they don't cross my radar. So I think the opportunity to expand my world was compelling.
Because that really emphasizes the performance mindset versus the knowledge mindset. Because
Yeah.
you're not taking a quiz where you either know it or don't know it. You have to persuade the other person of your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And that is hard. And
Yeah, but
did you,
fun.
if you like it, yeah,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people, public speaking is number 2 to death as far as fears. And when you think about it, it's like the whole tribe is looking at you and judging you. And if you lose, you're out off the island, right?
Yeah. And, I've given public speeches for things that were very personally important. Like a great example is a, maid of honor speech at my best friend's
Yeah,
wedding. And, my hands were shaking as I was holding the paper. So, there's still a fear
of course. Yeah.
aspect there. But I think you're entirely right, Brian, that it's not, have I retained this information? Can I pick A, B, C, D on a Scantron? It's, have I been able to digest this information in a way that allows me to reuse it and do so in a way that's meaningful and it is, that resonates for my audience.
Yeah. And then versus being a event planner, which is much more of a process job,
Mm-hmm.
structured,
Mm-hmm.
check the boxes, make sure everything's on time, make sure everything's communicated. Sales is much more, how do you build interest in doing something that they're not thinking about now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am a very processed person. I love going down the list and checking the boxes. And I think a lot of that has translated to success in sales,
Yeah.
that I I've been creative in my process, and I like thinking outside the box or going beyond just the sales process. But I also find that there's a lot of comfort in saying, okay, I've gone through steps 1, 2, et cetera, et cetera. So I know I have done everything to set myself up for success. And then at the end of the day, when you lose a sale, which of course you're going to, you can kind of look back and say, no, I did everything right. I'm okay. It's on to the next one.
Yeah. Cool. And tell us about the sale you have now. What's it like?
Yeah, so very consultative. It's definitely the most consultative sale I've ever done. As I shared, it's a research firm. So I'm selling access to research and advisory to chief procurement officers, generally in the Fortune 1000. I think unique challenge is that we are also growing a new market here in the Americas. So we don't have a lot of brand recognition, which I love launching new products and going into new markets. It's a challenge, right? It's a competition and I'm going to win.
Yeah.
But it's, I think it makes for a slightly longer sales process because there is that initial element of just saying, this is who we are. Like, is that of interest to you before you can get to the point to say, what are your priorities? Here is where we match.
And you're calling probably the most inaccessible people unimaginable. Am I
You
right or
know,
no?
everybody puts their pants on 2 legs at a time. So they might be busy, but I think if you can be thoughtful about the messaging you're sending to them, and you can acknowledge that they're busy and you need to make it worth their time, even if you're asking for 10 or 15 minutes, they are difficult to access, but not inaccessible.
And what is the best mode? Is it combination of email, phone, social, or
I am one of those extraordinarily lucky people that I'm partnered with an SDR team.
okay?
So that's a real win. So I do get a lot of support from my SDR team, who those folks are doing the hardest job
Yeah,
that there is in sales. That's for darn sure. I do a lot of my outreach to my 10 billion plus companies because I've identified those as my key accounts.
yeah,
I just kind of have a knack for navigating the big boys. I like to go LinkedIn. as well as email, as well as cold calls, voicemails, and just cold calls to try to catch them. I am a huge fan of multi-threading on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if that's something that that you're kind of advocating for, but being able to go through, touch multiple stakeholders in the organization, get some of that internal buy-in, and engage with the prospect in a way that isn't buy this. It's let's see if there's a mutual fit, and if there is, and it's an appropriate time to talk about partnership, then let's have that conversation.
Yeah, because you got to match them where they are, which is pretty much unaware of they don't know that you exist, right?
Yep.
They don't never heard of either you or your company.
Yep.
Don't know what it is. They may have heard of other analysts' services that may fit, may not. So you have to kind of meet them where they are and build that unawareness to awareness and to interest and curiosity.
Yeah. Yep. You're exactly right. And I think curiosity is like the best phrase. I want to be able to reach out to people and share insights with them, or share articles, things that will help them today, and build that curiosity and build that credibility and trust, so that down the road, when the timing is right, they remember, oh, I loved that article that Leslie sent, or she was so patient with me at a time where I needed help but couldn't afford her service. I'm going to give her a ring now.
That's it, because they're not going to go from that cold call to issuing you an order.
Yep.
Unfortunately
not, Brian.
Unless you're that good. Maybe you are. I don't.
No, I am not. I'd like to meet the person who is then.
Yeah. And how do you build up that value pile? Because it is kind of an intangible. They can't really touch it. The ROI is a little vague. The value is probably there, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah. I think, again, I'm a little bit lucky because I work for a research firm, and the analysts that we have, the research team we have in-house, is exceptional, and they are constantly turning out just great pieces of insight articles and feature articles and strategy reports. So some of that they make available for me to share with prospects. So that's a no-brainer, right? I'm giving you something that would usually cost $500, $2,000, whatever the case may be. But beyond that, I have the ability to go and participate in our webinars, read the strategy reports. So I think I'm in a unique position to take all of that data, craft it into insights, and then use those insights to tell a meaningful story to that particular prospect. And that's going to be different if it's a small company or a large company, if they're in pharma versus financial services versus manufacturing. So, just making sure that when I am communicating with them, even if I'm saying just read the subject line of an email, it's a subject line of an email that makes them think, oh, I would like to do that. Or can you tell me, that does make me curious.
Yeah. And how many of you, being, I guess, account exec is that the title, are in the US?
So we're growing the team. We're up to 4 now, which is pretty exciting because when procurement leaders brought me on about 1.5 years ago, it was just me. So it's been really powerful to see the expansion of that US footprint and see our client base grow here.
And how many deals do you need to do to make your personal number? Is it 5?
About 20.
20? Okay.
Yeah,
so it's not that bad.
No, and although we offer a service that is kind of consultancy adjacent, I don't set the prices. My CEO and my chief commercial officer are very, very thoughtful about a price point that allows people to access this service. We don't want to be consultancy. We don't want to be charging these huge amounts. We want to be a profitable business, but do it in a way where it's a partnership and we are not charging more than we need to, so that we can help as many people as possible.
And how do you break up those communications? Because too many people do set the appointment, give a presentation, a demo, give a proposal, negotiate. But I can't imagine that working in your space.
We are given a lot of flexibility to develop our own sales process that works with our personality. So I do have a lot of colleagues that pitch from decks that on their discovery meeting, their intro meeting, go through a deck. That doesn't work for my personality and just the way I communicate. So I am very, very conversational in my first meeting. Certainly want to provide that brief overview of what the company does, what is the solution, what's the engagement model, so that there's a level set, we're on the same page. But if somebody's going to give me an hour, that's going to be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the other 50 minutes is going to be, man, what keeps you up at night? What is your boss asking you to deliver? What is or even better yet, I saw the CEO said that the company needs to deliver X this year. How are you supporting that? What role are you playing? And for me, I found that just having that conversation is a lot more productive.
And that requires that outward mindset because you've got to think like they think.
Yes, which,
What?
I'm getting there. Procurement people are an interesting breed. So I think I'm still learning the ropes, but that's okay. Constantly finding new ways to work and to interact.
Because a lot of reps have a hard time talking about what the other person cares about, as opposed to who you are, what you do, and how does it work.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. Interestingly, this is my first ever individual contributor role. I've always been in sales management before this. And again, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to move to a totally consultative sale as an individual contributor. I guess I'm just kind of a glutton for punishment there. But in the sales management roles, you're spot on, Brian. One of the most difficult things to communicate to folks is, I know that you have your point A to your point B and that you want to get to, give me your MasterCard. But in between, if you are not asking questions and then really listening to those questions so that you can repeat what they've said and then turn it into another question and be able to dig deep, you're
Yep.
never going to find that pain point. You're going to know what's at the surface. You're never going to really know what's important to them and what will get them to buy. So I completely agree.
Yeah. And the client doesn't want to get there. You have to lead them there.
Right. It's
The
a
why.
pain point. It's painful.
Right. Nobody goes to the doctor and says, "Hey, I want surgery."
Right.
They want a pill,
Yeah.
right? They want a shot, and they
Yeah.
definitely don't want surgery. So the
Yeah.
doctor has to, well, let's take a look at that X-ray.
It's so true. That
The
is
aspirin
so
will
true.
cover for 4 hours. The shot may be a day, but
Yep. Yeah. You gotta pull it out. And part of that is building trust too,
yeah,
which is for me why I like to lead with just those open-ended questions and give people an opportunity to share, and on my end show that I am here to listen and that I hear what they're saying and that I want to be helpful and that I think most importantly, I'm not going to try to sell them something
right.
unless I believe that it was of value to them.
Yeah, and no amount of pressure is going to get them to buy it.
No.
They've got to want it.
Yep. I had a boss many, many years ago that would always say, everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold to.
Right. But everybody wants help.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've never met anyone who didn't want to talk about themselves. Right?
We are humans.
Yeah. But it's hard to get that out of our head and into theirs, get those questions and build that trust, the empathy, the interest and curiosity about their world and how do they
Yeah.
get judged and what do they care about and
Yeah.
how you can help that.
Yeah, it's so true. I find it helpful to write questions down before I get on phone calls with people. Because I'm sure you do the same thing, but you're mid conversation, you think of a great question you want to ask. You wait another 2 minutes until you're done talking about the topic at hand, and then the question is out of your mind.
Yeah. And sometimes the questions have to be a little bit not over the edge, but a touch on a nerve,
Hmm.
implication type questions.
Yeah.
What
Yep. Those
happens
challenger questions.
to get them to really think because they don't want to really expose or feel the pain,
Yeah.
but they're not going to change unless they do.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I think at the end of the day, people appreciate those thought-provoking conversations. Maybe they didn't log into the Zoom meeting or pick up the phone call thinking, ooh, I can't wait to share with this relative stranger, the fact that my boss has told me if I don't increase profits, we're going to have to lay off a team member.
Yeah.
But they want to get it off their chest and they want a solution. And if, that comes up throughout the conversation, I do think that they're appreciative at the end.
And what have you learned? I mean, because you're there probably a little over a year and a half. I'm sure that first year was a pretty steep learning curve.
Boy,
Yeah.
was it. Yeah. Um, I think personally, I learned that I am pretty darn resilient, which is a nice thing to know about
Right.
yourself. This is the longest sales cycle I've ever worked in. When I joined the company, the average sales cycle was, I want to say, like 119 days
Okay.
or something like that. So, I went in with the mindset that it is going to take time to get there. But gosh, at, month 3, when I hadn't closed my first deal, even knowing that it wasn't time for that to happen, I was panicking, and there's that self-doubt, and you wonder, did I make a mistake going into this type of sale? Can I do this? But I stuck to my process. I followed the steps, and then closed 4 deals in like 3 weeks afterwards, and hit my, my first year target, 156%. So that worked out. Just stay the course, and it will work out. But one of the, I think, more pertinent things I've realized is just because something is the way it is, it's a long sales cycle, it's 118 days. That didn't work for me. I like faster sales cycles. If somebody's interested, why are we delaying this? Let's stay at the height of that emotional buying peak. Let's get you the help you need. So at the end of this year, looking at my KPIs, my average sales cycle is 51 days.
Wow.
So,
That's less than
yeah.
half. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a nice balance. It was the resilience that I uncovered at the beginning, but also saying, well, it's fine that I'm resilient, but what would be better is a shorter sales cycle. So
Yeah.
how can I create that sense of urgency without it being sales pressure? How can it be a partnership and a collaboration with that prospect to get us to where we both want to be, which is a finalized partnership?
And let's talk about that resiliency. What did you do as far as having that confidence with no evidence of success?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of red wine at night.
But that's pretty temporary.
Yes. I think a couple of things. I stayed the course. I really did stay the course. And I think that it's a pit that folks often fall into is they don't see the results of their work, so they'll start changing things up.
Panicking. Yeah.
Panicking, changing things up, and then you lose that
Ruin it.
consistency,
Yeah.
and you lose the ability to draw useful conclusions. If you're doing the same thing for 3 months and it's not working, it probably just doesn't work. But if you do one thing one week, the next week something else,
You can't tell.
how do you know what's
Yeah.
working or not? So I really forced myself to stay the course, even during those times of self-doubt. I also went to my extended network. I went to former colleagues, to other folks I've worked with, and I said, would you buy this? If you did, why? Like,
Wow.
what would be compelling for you? Or, even just calling people and saying, do you mind if I pitch you? Because you're not familiar with this product, and a lot
Right.
of the people I'm calling aren't. Do I make sense?
That's excellent, because that's practice and feedback from people that you don't need to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great because those people, I don't know, why would they buy it? And you can get a
Right.
dialogue going. And I think the other piece is, even though you're not closing deals, are they talking to you?
Right.
Because they're not going to talk to you unless there's some value.
Are they setting those follow-up steps? Are they
Showing
follow-up
up.
steps that they're showing up to, and you're
Yes.
having, a
Remember.
pot? Yes. Yes. Be like, oh, well, Bob, we actually spoke last week for an hour. You don't remember that?
Right. And that's what I try and coach reps is find out what does work, then you can make it faster.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as they're talking to you about the product, about the service, instead of just sports or the weather or current events, then you know that there's something good there, and keep the baby steps going.
That's excellent advice. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's very much the sort of the journey that I've gone on this past year and a half.
Yeah. And what do you think distinguishes you from other reps?
Man, that's a great question. And I think that my CEO and CCO would both really like to know the answer to that, so that
But
they
you're
could
keeping
just,
it to yourself.
right, so they could replicate it. Because it has not been an easy and straightforward path here in the US growing this business. We've had stumbling blocks. And I think often about why have I succeeded in a role where so many others have failed.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of it is just frankly work ethic. I will work until I get the job done. I will work until I meet quota. So some of it's just that internal motivation. I I cannot live with not meeting quota and not winning. So part of it is just me being that type A, have to deliver.
Yeah.
I need to show up because people are depending on me, my coworkers, my organization. I'm depending on me. I love to spend money. I want those commission checks. I think that that's an important part of it. But honestly, I think some of it is just like my Montana roots and a genuine interest in other people. And like, I truly care about helping other folks.
Right.
I think that's maybe a bit more difficult to replicate.
And it's a good mix of working hard, but also working really smart.
I try.
Right? Because a lot of people can do the work hard, and a few people can do the work smart. But if you don't do both, especially in your situation, a foreign country, even though the UK speak English and everything, but there's doubt. Distance creates doubt,
Yep. Yeah.
and lack of results creates doubt until you get it. Then it's like, oh, we knew.
Like, oh, I never worried. I had this the whole time. You're like, oh.
Cool. Hey, it's been a fun conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and follow you?
Yeah, Brian, thanks so much for having me. Please consider connecting with me on LinkedIn. It's just linkedin.com/in/Leslie Vanette. Any questions you have, I'm always, again, happy to be of service to the sales community.